Good afternoon, good morning to some of you, good evening to others. Very warm welcome to a very windy London. My name is Mark Newman. I'm Chief Analyst at TM Forum, and I'm here to moderate this afternoon's webinar. We have a distinguished set of panelists today. Thank you so much for joining us. If I could ask you to put your cameras on, please. We have Nilesh Pratap Singh. Nilesh is Group CIO of Airtel Africa, speaking to us from Nairobi, I think. Nilesh, what time is it in Nairobi?
It's 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, excellent. A bit ahead of London. So good afternoon to you, Nilesh.
Good afternoon, Mark. Thank you.
We have Tanveer Mahmood. Tanveer is Senior VP and Head of Large Deals Unit at Conviva. I think you said you're in Pune, is that right, Tanveer?
No, I'm based out of Bombay.
Oh, you're Bombay. You're Bombay. Good. I guess it's almost evening for you.
Yeah, it's 6:30.
Okay. I hope we're not going to keep you too long, Tanveer, but thank you for joining us today.
Thanks.
Last but not least, we have Anand Shelke. Anand is Head of 5G Solutions Delivery at Blue Marble Conviva, and you're in Pune, I guess, Anand.
That's correct, Mark. Yeah.
Good. And are you in the same time zone as Tanveer?
Yes, I am.
Good. Okay, so the family is waiting expectantly for you to have your dinner, I guess, unless you've eaten early. So thank you very much for joining us today. Now we're going to be talking today about the migration of the industry towards 5G, new products, new services, new experiences, and I guess the journey that operators like Airtel Africa are making towards 5G. We have a pretty free-flowing panel discussion today. You, our audience, thank you so much for joining us today. We'd love to take your input, your questions, your comments. Please use that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen here, and we'll pick up questions with you probably towards the end of the session today, probably about 10 to the hour. And that's it. So if we want to just move on to full screen, Ellie. So we have everyone's beautiful faces. So as I say, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll be running through, as I say, this transition towards 5G monetization experience. So I think probably a nice way to start is just to give you all just a few minutes or a couple of minutes each, shall we say, talk about your own particular role, your company, what you do. So Nilesh, if I can just start with you. So I think some of us are very familiar with Airtel Africa. For those of you that aren't, maybe you can just give us just a brief summary of Airtel Africa and where you are as a business today.
Thanks, Mark. So Airtel Africa is a telecom and a fintech player operating obviously in Africa. We have operations in 14 countries, close to 130 million customers on GSM side and close to 25 million customers on fintech side. Last few years, a lot of work has gone in rolling out 4G, and as
I think Nilesh is frozen, so I'm sure we'll get him back. He has a particularly startled look. So maybe Tanveer, if we just move over to you, just wait for Nilesh to come back online. So. Tanveer, if we can just talk you through you and your role, what you do in the Conviva business.
Sure, thanks, Mark. So I had large deals unit in Conviva, which is an SI organization within Conviva. As you know, Conviva has multiple product units, multiple offerings. So whenever there is multiple products required, my unit comes into picture. I also lead 5G task force in Conviva. So that's the reason I'm here in this forum with you, and happy to be with this forum. And I'm working with Conviva for last 15 years, working, as I said, from Bombay office. And for almost 2 years, 2.5 years, this discussion is going on that how 5G will evolve, what is our role. So it is certainly expected to bring generational change in our lives, and I am very excited, to be part of this journey as a key stakeholder, one of the key stakeholder in the ecosystem.
And I guess, Tanvir, that your customers, some have launched some 5G, some are in the process of launching. They're at different stages of evolution, I guess. And I think it'd be nice in the discussion today you can bring a flavor of that.
Sure. Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Thank you. And last but not least, Anand. So Blue Marble. So tell us a little bit about Blue Marble before we carry on, because again, it's probably a name that some people are familiar with, other people maybe less so. So interested to hear about Blue Marble and where you're at today as an organization.
Sure. Good morning, afternoon, evening, folks from wherever you have joined in. I'm Anand. I've been in the industry for more than 20 years now, working core on the telecom BSS OSS and also on the solutioning around BSS. Blue Marble is one of the flagship products that we have, and that's working primarily into the BSS space. It's a lightweight BSS which has the commerce, the catalog, the ordering, the automation, integrations with various other BSS system. And it in the recent past has also evolved to support 5G and the implementations around 5G. So maybe later in the discussion, Mark, I would like to touch upon some of the typical BSS requirements that we have when it comes to 5G, how BSS needs to evolve. That's me quickly.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we will certainly come to that. And I think as we talk to Nilesh again and to Tanvir, we can understand where operators want to go with their 5G and what their requirements are. So absolutely, we will be doing that. So again, while we wait, just wait for Nilesh to come back online. Nilesh, are you online yet, or are we still? I can see your name popping up. Ah, Nilesh, you okay? So
Sorry for that brief interruption.
I'm not going to ask if it's an Airtel broadband connection serving your office. I won't ask you that question, I promise you. But glad you could come back. So the good news is you didn't miss too much. Tanvir and Anand just filled us in on their background. So I think if we can just come back to you. So I'm guessing that you haven't launched 5G yet, I'm guessing, in any of your markets. I guess you're in the sort of the planning phase, and I guess until there's spectrum for you there to bid for, then there's nothing much you can do about it. So what do you see being the time horizon for you developing 5G in your different markets, availability of spectrum permitting?
So Mark, I think it is very important for us to understand the journey which Africa is going through. At this point in time, our smartphone penetration is roughly around 35%. And if you look at 4G smartphones, we are talking about less than 10%.
Wow.
The overall telecom penetration is in the range of about 40-42%. When you compare it with the West, even in Asia, which are in high 80s going into 90s.
Yeah.
So Africa is still catching up on the connectivity and basic internet and digital inclusion.
Yeah.
So our major focus has been rolling out 4G across all our markets, increasing coverage, connecting as many people as possible. That was a major task over the last few years. And now we think that it's the time that we can start thinking about 5G. And in some of the major cities, capital cities, we have started planning about launching 5G in next 1 to 2 years, depending on how the ecosystem shapes up. So as you rightly said, early stage.
So when you think about the evolution in your markets from 3G to 4G to 5G, and what these next generation technology networks are doing for you, is it mainly about just having more spectrum, more bandwidth for people to consume, consumers to consume more services as the whole world of applications become very video centric?
So, as it is happening in rest of the world, there is a significant acceleration of digitization of the economies we operate in. Lots of startups, lots of new products a shift from physical to digital is happening, and perhaps much faster than what I've personally seen happening in other parts of the world. So data is becoming mainstream or foundation for all these businesses. And there's one thing unique about Africa, that bulk of the internet access happens over mobile, over the broadband, mobile broadband networks. To the extent that a country like Nigeria, about 85% of the internet access happens over mobile, not over desktop, not over laptops. So the operators have a much bigger role to play. The broadband which we provide in the markets are not fiber, but they're largely based on wireless broadband, which people use at home. So given that setting, 5G is definitely going to be very important to increase the size of the pipes as more and more contents get consumed, as more and more app starts getting consumed, and as the requirement of low latency access becomes more relevant for the products which are being consumed. So that's the first part.
And so we often talk about the migration from 3G to 4G to 5G, but actually probably as important or more than important than that is the transition of businesses like Airtel Africa from being a consumer-centric organization to being an operator that delivers a range of services to different size enterprises, all the way from a SOHO all the way through to sort of large enterprise and government bodies. So where do you feel you are on that journey away from being a consumer-centric organization?
I think that shift started a couple of years ago when the enterprises, small and big, in different markets started realizing that they need to start digitizing themselves, starting from the government. Almost all of them have big agenda around digital inclusion, along with financial inclusion. Large enterprises who want to transform themselves, they have been running legacy platforms, and the startups and SMBs who want plug and play solutions because they don't have time to run large transformations or the wherewithal for it. So across all the three sections, we see a lot of traction. In fact, in some of the markets, large enterprises came to us and said, can we offer cloud services? Traditionally, we were providing data center hosting services. So we saw an opportunity to help those enterprises, and we launched cloud service, a public cloud service in some of the markets, which is now taking up quite well. Similarly, on the security side, many small, medium enterprises said, we can't have resources on our side. We don't have all the platforms. Can you provide security as a service? So that became another mainstream. And interestingly, some of these things are the building blocks for 5G. As we move towards the edge, you need more data centers closer to the customer.
Yes.
So some of these offerings are going quite well with our preparation towards 5G.
Yes. Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And we'll come back to you to talk maybe more about the specific services that you are offering in that B2B space. If I could just come over to Tanvir and then Anand. So Nilesh is very clearly talked about the status of the Airtel Africa business today in terms of thinking about the transition away from being consumer-centric to being B2B centric. The story that Nilesh tells, is that similar to what you're seeing in other markets that you serve? Tanvir, maybe if I can come to you first.
No, it's not same, because I think the speed at which 5G is being rolled out across the globe is not same. So from the milestone perspective, where Africa or some of the market in Africa is versus some of the market in Europe, especially, and Asia Pacific, they have a live commercial deployment today, right? You take some of the Middle East countries like Kuwait, or take European countries, multiple Germany, and there are multiple 5G commercial deployments we can discuss in detail. They are already live, and their consumers can avail the 5G, at least 5G services. And now they're thinking on the next level, which is how do they build B2B proposition. because I don't think that, I mean, it's our belief that operators, CSPs will not be able to make money from 5G only from the access. End of the day, it's a very high speed data pipe, right? Real value comes when you bring the industrial automation, the use cases which are heavily latency sensitive, like AR, VR, gaming, all of that, right? So there has to be a necessity of developing a B2B ecosystem. And I think a lot of energy is going into that direction of everyone in the ecosystem, not only telco, that how telco can play a role, and how industry also can play a role. And Mark, I can just to summarize that who all are important players in this whole journey. Of course, one is consumer, but that is very B2C centric discussion, right? So you have 5G, can your subscriber having a 5G handset use 5G or not? That's one aspect. Then second, of course, telco, because it is B2C or B2B. Telco is in the helm of the stuff. Then you have very important stakeholder is the enterprise customer. So again, if you are doing industrial automation, or say you are automating the port operation, then port itself is your customer, right? Who is consuming your IoT services. Then your infra provider could be a telco or could be a non-telco infra provider like hypervisors, right? Hyperscalers, data center players, AWS, and all of them, right? Then you have guys who are extremely important in making it successful is the 5G application provider. So when I'm saying 5G application provider, I clearly means that when we are talking about enabling a AR, VR use case, there is somebody you need to write the application who can write the business logic. Telco can't write, companies like us, we can't do that, right? So you need guys who are very, very creative, like startups, write a very specific domain, specific use cases, right? So that's probably fifth stakeholder. And then you have specialized hardware. Somebody will create the glasses or AR, VR headset or IoT devices. So you have a hardware player also. And then I think last but not least is companies like us, who are technology provider, ISVs, enabler. So our role, the way we see, is that we are going to enable how to bring at least 3, 4, 5 of these ecosystem players onto a platform, and then make a win-win situation. So a lot of discussion, as I said, is going into this B2B2X, right? And for B2B2X, while there are cases, you will hear that Telefonica is working on giving a immersive experience in a stadium, right? In Spain. So that's one domain, but it is still not in production, commercialized, setup. These are all POCs, and I think we can discuss going forward, but all of them are in POC stage. Yeah, Mark.
One of the things that I think is interesting about B2B is that when it comes to consumer services, the packages, the price plans, the services that operators offer are pretty similar across the world today, pretty similar. When we think about B2B, it's a more complex, it's a more fragmented market. And I think importantly, there's a huge different levels of maturity and ambition across the CSP space. So, you compared, let's say, Europe and North America with markets in Africa, but even if we just look at markets in the Southern Hemisphere more broadly, again, I'm guessing that operators have different views about where they sit in the value chain, where they'll monetize. Is that your experience, that operators have a lot of different opinions, or do you see them coming to some sort of consensus in terms of where they think they can add value in these new areas?
Yeah, I think, like Tanvir said, that there are different levels of maturity in different markets, but some of the key things are the parallels if we have to draw. I think it's pretty much clear that the ARPU is not going to increase much, at least in the beginning, but they need to focus on what we call as ARPA, that is average revenue per account. And this means that the telecom companies are going to focus more on the industries than the consumers in the 5G era. And in the process, they will, from a mere communication provider, will become the solution enablers or even the solution creators. So I think in that sense, they will evolve, and they'll evolve in all possible different directions.
But that's a very different skill set. I mean, to say you're going to go B2B, that's a fundamental pivoting of the organization, because
Absolutely.
it's a different set of conversations, different services. And, you know, I'm not convinced that all operators will make it. I don't believe all operators will be successful in making that transition into being B2B focused as well as B2C focused. And so what I'm wondering is, you know, when you speak to operators, do you get that same sense that some are more committed than others in terms of this B2B market that we're talking about?
Yes, we do get that sense, Mark, and I would agree with you that operators, and I would put it a little differently, that by themselves they cannot do it. But 5G, we all need to understand that it's a partners play. Yeah. So, like they are talking about consumers today, they also have to manage the partners. They are, currently managing the contracts, SLAs, etc., only with the consumers, which also needs to go to vendors, partners, and there will be a lot of other players. But I do definitely see a urge in many operators to focus on the enterprises, especially with the 5G, and align their solutions, products towards the realization of Industry 4.0, giving the immersive experience that Tanvi was talking about. And there would be a lot of new use cases, right? We understand some use cases today, but as it matures, there will be a lot of new use cases. And of course, consumers will have one channel for operators to launch this, but the majority of when we say moving up the value chain, I think that will come through the partnerships with the enterprises.
Thank you. Okay, so Nilesh, if I can come back to you. So you were saying some very interesting things. So Nilesh, you said to me that companies came and asked you for cloud services, so you then moved into cloud business. You make it all sound very simple, but for a consumer-centric mobile operator to move into the cloud business, that's a big commitment, and it requires a lot of new expertise. So how did you go about that process, and what did you do on your own, and where did you need to partner?
So, I think when we were discussing about all these services internally, brainstorming that what will make it easy for us and our prospective customers to have this conversation, and them taking us seriously about having these services from us. One thing we were very clear about, that we will offer them the same food which we eat.
Yeah.
What I mean by saying is telcos have to provide 4 nines, 5 nines, now moving to 6 9 services. Our networks, our core systems are designed like that. The amount of data which we are sitting on and the kind of services we provide, our setup has to be secure. We invest quite a lot of amount on security, on expertise, on platforms, partnerships. And whatever we are doing for ourselves should be extended for our prospective customers. What we decided, that it's the same team which runs our network, our data centers, our security operations, we will extend them and will create kind of a multi-tenant setup on the operating model side, that some part of it will be serving the external customers, physical separation, logical separation, and some part of it will be for our own use.
So are you then, so just so I understand precisely what you mean, you're talking about deployment of private cloud and then using the private cloud used for your own IT, using some of that for customer cloud, for public cloud. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so basically, you see, being a conglomerate, we operate in 14 countries, right?
Right.
But there is one cloud team which operates our cloud setup. We have got about 56 data centers, for example.
In how many countries, Nilesh?
In 14 countries. I'm sorry, 28 main data centers, and rest are the smaller ones. Now, these data centers is being operated by one team. And we have built our own private cloud, which we extended it to become a public cloud. Because as I mentioned, we have got multiple lines of businesses. Telecom is one, but we are also a fintech player. Now, fintech player is hosting their services on the GSM cloud. Similar other businesses we are going into, like content businesses, also hosting their services on the GSM cloud. So GSM cloud is becoming a service provider internally. And the size is huge, as I said, 130 million odd customers, and so much data going through our platforms, so many, CPU, memory, storage being used by the GSM side. The rest appears far smaller compared to.
And what type of cloud services are you offering to customers? Is it a full range of infrastructure services? Is it main infrastructure as a service?
So as of now, we have started with infrastructure as a service.
Yeah.
So people can get, CPU, memory, storage, backup as a service.
Yeah.
Network as a service, security as a service, firewall, etc. So we are into the infrastructure domain. We are working with different partners, to provide platform as a service, collaboration suites, communication suites, where the SMBs can just plug and play. They don't have to deploy it on their own. So we are in process of graduating up the value chain towards more platform as a service, but core offering today is infrastructure as a service.
And will your evolution necessarily mean you're trying to build an ecosystem of partners to deliver services over your cloud? Is that necessarily part of your evolution, or maybe? Nilesh?
No, I think the partnerships are going to play a very important role, and partnerships in different areas. So we have partnerships with some of the software partners who help us get up to speed quite fast. We have got partnerships with some of the startups who are building niche public cloud software which we can use. We also have partnerships with Comviva, for example, on some of the other areas, but a bit of overlap with what we are doing on the B2B side.
So what's your ambition level here? Is your ambition that, in the markets in which you have cloud facilities, how competitive is the cloud market? Are you the, one of the only very few number of organizations with cloud, or is it already competitive?
No, we are. It's not competitive at all, because the other option, for example, if I am a startup in Madagascar, right?
Yeah.
And it's an island nation, not too many fiber cables there, so the internet bandwidth is obviously limited. And if a startup has to host their services in Amsterdam or London or Virginia data centers or one of the hyperscalers, they are not able to provide the right services what they need for their customers. We provide low latency. We are closer to the customer, edge, you can call it. And we are fairly competitive, right? At this point in time, there are not too many in our markets, and they're not. Yeah.
Can you give us a sense of? I'm not going to ask you for financials, but is it still very early days for those businesses yet, or are they rapidly maturing businesses where you can genuinely see that you're going to be able to sort of make a return on your investment in the near future?
So the good thing about this business is that you grow as you get more customers.
Right.
Right. If you look at the size of the data centers of hyperscalers, they did not put all the servers on day one.
Yeah.
You start a certain minimum base, and as the utilization keeps on growing, you keep on adding. So your investment is not very high upfront. So from ROI perspective, it works well. But the customers, do they have the setup comparable to our GSM setup? Not at this point in time, but I think in few quarters down the line, I'm sure it's going to be should be becoming comparable.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to you next, Nilesh, and talk to you specifically about fintech. But before that, I'm just going to go back to Tanvir and Anand. So, it's very interesting listening to Nilesh talk about the cloud business, and it's taken, Airtel in quite a different direction. I guess it's building on the question I asked before. I'm guessing, Tanvir, that not all operators that you serve are quite this ambitious in terms of building out cloud capabilities. I guess some of them are, but not all of them by any stretch.
Absolutely. So I think operator at a scale of at which Airtel operates, both in South Asia as well as Africa, they should have an ambition, and they have clear-cut ambitions. And then there are majority of the CSPs across the globe who wants to really go and do a tie-up with hyperscalers, right? So you take, most of them are going that route rather than saying that they will offer their own cloud services.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And Anand, if I can just come over to you. So, when I think about the Blue Marble suite of services and capabilities, and we hear what Nilesh is saying about Airtel Africa. In terms of what you're offering, are you talking about offering new sort of greenfield stacks, greenfield BSS solutions? I mean, is that a major growth area for you as operator think about the B2B opportunity, or is it really more modernizing existing BSS functions they already have in place?
If you ask me, it's a mix of both, but some of the customers we are talking to, they have the legacy BSS systems. And for them, it's very difficult to change their existing legacy systems to accommodate what 5G requires. As I said earlier, 5G is a partner's play. Operators are changing, the business models are changing. So the BSS also needs to have a different perspective. It needs to be kind of BSS plus, wherein it needs to now, instead of managing just the customer, needs to manage the vendors, the partners, maybe the eSIM providers. The charging billing will also change, right? So in some cases, we have customers who are specifically asking if there is a separate lightweight BSS that can only cater to the 5G services. In some, we are talking to customers who are more interested in extending their BSS systems or augmenting it with additional components. So for example, security is a key thing. How do you involve security into this? Maybe they want to cut slices. How can you bring the slice lifecycle management into the existing BSS capabilities? Or they envisage that they're going to have, let's say, the IoT or any other devices who are, being pivotal to the services they build. How do you actually manage, monitor, dual complete activation, deactivation of these devices? So all these capabilities are the building blocks of the new BSS that people are, asking for.
And do you recommend from a telco whether they go greenfield or brownfield? Do you have any strong views on that, or are you happy to go wherever the customer wants to go?
Well, it actually depends. I mean, there is not, green or red pill to answer that, right? So it really depends on what state the customer is and what are the immediate future plans, how they want to monetize it, what is the level of readiness they have. And basis that we can, suggest either the greenfield option or the brownfield option.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we'll actually ask you some poll questions now. So just to give Nilesh, Anand and Tanvir a bit of a break, we're going to give you some poll questions. And then maybe I'll get responses from the three of you as to what we hear from you, the audience. So if Ellie, if you could just bring up the first of our poll questions. Bear with us, I'm sure it will come. We saw the questions just before. Oh, there you go. Excellent. So it's a very simple multiple choice. You just need to choose one. So how do you view the potential of the B2B opportunity in your particular market or country? One, it's huge potential for us and we're fully focused on it. Two, it's an important market, but consumer very much remains our focus. Or 3, we're still exploring market opportunities. So if you could choose just one, what will it be? So if you could choose just one, and we'll give you, hopefully it's not going to take you too long. We'll give you just 10 seconds, then we'll look at the answers. I don't have a strong feeling for how this go. I'm intrigued. My guess is, well, no, I'm not going to guess. I always guess wrong when I have these poll questions. So let's take a look at the answers. Okay. So 41%, huge potential, and we're fully focused on it. Secondly, it's an important market, but consumer is our focus. So I don't know if that's surprising. Nilesh, which one would you have chosen?
So it's difficult to put one against another when it comes
that's
to
why we asked a question like that.
Yeah, but we believe in terms of the growth opportunity, enterprise holds really good promise in the market.
And I think the reality is that we all know that consumer will remain the biggest part of the business. When it comes to revenue growth, I think the focus is more enterprise. That generally tends to be the view. So anything to add from Tanvir and that? Or?
Yeah, I think I agree with the majority there in terms of the potential that we have, because 5G, as I said earlier, it's not revenue for the telcos yet, unless they really start charging their consumers more. Till that time, it is just a cost, right? So if they want to move up the value chain, then enterprises is the way to go. And enterprises at the same time have the need for the services that 5G offers. I mean, they don't tag necessarily the services as 5G services, but those are the services which require the 5G capabilities in terms of the speed, accuracy, low latency, and massive machine-to-machine communication, right? So I think my vote would also be number one here.
So Tanvir, I'm going to actually ask you to wait, and you can take the lead on the next question. So let's move on to the next survey question, please. So this is even simpler, only one of 2 choices. Which B2B market opportunities are you prioritizing? Again, it's a tough question, and I'm sure Nilesh would find this one tough, but actually I think I can probably guess where Nilesh would go. So 1, traditional B2B services and fixed connectivity. By traditional B2B, I mean traditional fixed broadband, traditional communication services. Or B, new services enabled by technologies such as 5G, edge computing, and network slicing. So which are you prioritizing? A tough question, I know, but let's take. So we'll give you just another 10 seconds, then I hand over to Tanvir to give some thoughts on those. Okay, Ellie, let's look at the answers now, please. Okay, so that is interesting. So 72% are focused on new services. Tanvir, any thoughts around that?
I think this is very clear, and also this is related to the previous question about consumer service or B2B. Yeah. And I think a lot of innovation will happen in B2B2X space, certainly, because the amount of complexity the B2B adds, because there is a revenue potential and there is a potential of changing the whole generation. Consumer will access the certain limited services, high speed video and broadband. That's it. Okay. So the I don't think that through consumer you can really exploit the 5G what it is designed for.
Yeah.
And if you look at as we discussed that on B2B, I think the key would be that how do you orchestrate, right? So orchestration is the key. When I'm saying orchestration, of course, because there is a consumer of the other B, right? B2B2X. And then there is telco, there could be a 5G slice, because there is a lot of discussion going on the slice itself. Yeah. Right? And then there is an enterprise. How do you orchestrate? There could be an application, say oil and gas, application. And that needs to be deployed in multiple edges, as Nilesh said, that they have 28 data center. Assume they are 28 data center. We can't have a deployment of 28, BSS system So based on the use case, can I go and you deploy that application automatically, zero touch, automation in Madagascar data center, right? Which is edge, and then attach a slice in that edge with that enterprise. So I think it's going to be very exciting, Mark. It's not easy. I think people are still debating what is the best way, how it will look like.
Yeah.
And as I said, that people are talking about MVP, POC at the stage. Nobody is really putting huge money into this. And I think there's a right way, because eventually you require good use case, commitment from enterprises, and investment from telco also, right? That, okay, I will offer slice for this use case for this enterprise to try it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can look at even announcement today's happened in Airtel India, right? They have done tie-up with Tech Mahindra for enabling use cases around mobility, automobile, use cases. So you can monitor the whole telemetric of your car by Mahindra and Mahindra. So that IoT is another space. There is an NB-IoT. There would be a 5G IoT, and I think this area will grow exponentially.
Thank you, Tanvir. And before we go to the next question, Nilesh, if I could just ask you, which of those two would you have chosen?
I think you guessed it.
Number one.
Yes, I think it's the kind of market we are operating in.
Yeah.
So we are still in the catch-up phase.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And I guess you have made that commitment to expand into the traditional B2B market. And I'm guessing that the people that answered new services are those who are remaining mobile centric as operators, and therefore they're thinking more of opportunities off the back of their mobile networks. Okay, Ellie, if we can just have the last question, please. Okay, and this is again a similar type of question, but we'll ask anyway. Where do you see most new revenue growth opportunities in B2B over the next 2-3 years for your business? It's important for your, not generally the market, but for your business. So 1, basic connectivity, or 2, services beyond connectivity. Again, a very simple set of 2 choices. And I'm going to come to you in a minute, so I'll give people 10 seconds for answers, then we'll come to you. So another 10 seconds, we'll have your answers. 3, 2, 1, let's have a look. Okay, interesting divide. So pretty evenly divided. What you would have expected, Anand?
I think it's a fair response, because for you to build the connectivity services, it acts as a base for all these subsequent services that you are going to deploy, right? So I think first the first task would be to build the infrastructure, build the required RANs and the backhauls and the other networks, and then build slices. And then I think the services that we talk about, they could either go on the slices. It could be a dedicated slice, it could be a pre-configured slice, it could be an on-demand slice, or it could be an edge network that's a combination of edge plus slice or just edge, and you also have the private 5G network.
Yeah.
And all these will allow you to deploy plethora of services, either in a consumer mode or in a B2B2X mode, or just B2B mode, right? So I believe that connectivity services is as important for the second point to materialize.
Thank you very much, Anand. Thank you. Okay, great. So thank you very much, audience, for answering those questions. That was a little bit of fun, so thank you. And I'm going to go back to Nilesh. And when Nilesh started talking about his business, he said something very interesting. He said, I think you said, Nilesh, you're a telecoms and a fintech provider, which I thought was really interesting. And it was only when I looked at some of the revenue numbers for Airtel Africa and the other African operators, I realized that mobile money services represent an important part of your business. It's probably still only, you know, high single digits in terms of percentage of revenues, but it is growing. And I guess that's your main focus outside of core telecom. So can you give us some thoughts, Nilesh, in terms of how you expect that fintech business to evolve in terms of products, services, business models? And what I'm thinking here, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, is that you might be looking to extend it into more of a platform play rather than being more of a pure B2C play. So I'd love to hear your thoughts around that.
So, you're absolutely right. I think in terms of the share of the revenue, it is increasing quite fast. It might have crossed into double digits, but the growth there is much higher than our GSM growth. In Airtel Africa, we believe that our growth comes from V plus D plus M. We are growing on voice. In most of the world, people believe that voice is going to decline. Voice is declining. We are growing almost double digits on voice.
So you're growing in voice?
Yes, double digits, not even single digits.
Wow.
Data is growing. Data is growing by leaps and bounds. And M is mobile money. Yes. So the focus is on all three sectors or parts of the businesses. Now, mobile money, we are in a very unique position. You see, if you look at Africa, the population of Africa is roughly 1.2 billion. But if you look at the geographical area of Africa, it will be almost 10 times India, since Tanveer and Anand are also here. So 10 times the size, almost, in the same range of population. So distances are huge.
Yeah.
It's quite common for people to walk, to work for 5, 6, 10 kilometers every day and then go back. The transport infrastructure is not as developed as you will see in London, for example. Tubes have been there for 200 years. So that means that people cannot travel with lots of money, right? And that means they need to convert it to something which they can carry in their pocket. And if they have the mobile device and that's where they can carry money, there's nothing more convenient than that. And the government have played, very strong role in enabling the financial inclusion. The limits of the wallets is about $1,000, $1,500, which is quite reasonable for a large part of the population. I spend a lot more using my mobile wallet than I use the card.
And very quickly, Nilesh, what's your business model for monetizing mobile money services?
Business model is, as of now, we started with providing access. So we have Airtel Money branches, kiosks, running into thousands of them across the length and breadth. So people are able to deposit money, withdraw money. So we are the kind of largest banks in the countries we operate in. And then all the utilities bill payment. Now we are moving into salary payments. So the entire ecosystem of money movement is moving slowly into mobile money platforms.
And in terms of monetization, it's the same way that a bank would charge you. So a bank would charge you to deposit, or maybe charge a utility for paying a bill. So it's the same basic approach as a utility company.
Absolutely, same basic approach, but we are moving towards a lot more platform, with more and more services getting hooked on insurance, savings, etc.
Yeah. And in terms of growth, I mean, presumably you grow your revenues the more customers use your services for their financial transactions. You hope that will grow. But also, what does the evolution into a platform business look like for your business in terms of how you monetize? Does the shift focus to being more a B2B monetization rather than B2C monetization, or not?
No, I think it's both B2B, B2B2X, which we were talking about. So you see, we strongly believe that the currency of digital world is APIs.
Yes. Okay.
So a year and a half ago, we launched a developer portal. We made it absolutely easy for any person to spend one day and integrate with us for collecting money, for sending money, for remittances, for selling their products. So more and more of the ecosystem partners are joining with us. And some of them, for example, if there's an insurance player wants to send an insurance product to the third party, but they use Airtel Money as the payment mode. So that's B2B2C. We have got our own customers, right? And that's B2C. We've got lots of enterprises who pay salaries to their employees via our platform, which is kind of B2B. So it's something which encompasses lots of opportunities, packed into what we call as mobile.
And so can I genuinely look at that as a platform business today? Or is it evolving into a platform business?
It is already now.
Okay. And when we think about 3G to 4G to 5G, does that make any difference to your mobile money strategy, or does it exist independently of that? Are you mainly using SMS and USSD, and that's gonna? Well, I guess you moved to an app model. Which I guess 3G, 4G is important.
Yeah, I think it is important because it's all about connectivity, right? Yeah. We don't want people to walk into a bank branch.
No.
Right? We want people to do everything on their phones and consume even contents there. So it is closely tied, and that's the advantage with which the telcos had over some of the traditional financial institutions. Yeah. So
okay, thank you, Nilesh. So we have loads and loads of questions coming in, but before we do, I mean, Tanvir and Anand, anything you'd like to add in terms of the mobile money? I haven't talked about mobile money yet, but anything you particularly want to add in terms of what you're seeing, what you're doing around the mobile payments space that's new and evolving? Tanvir, if you want to go first.
Sure. So, Mark, I think payment is also evolving now from Africa perspective. Because of access, USSD and SMS, they do work over there. But in some of the market, I'm sure even in Africa, Nilesh will soon move to app, and when there is a significant base of app, he would like to move into a super app, right? Because end of the day, as Nilesh said, it's a platform business, right? So you are enabling a payment services, right? If you can bring the ecosystem, bring super app concept, right, where you allow your consumers, which is Airtel's consumer or B2B2X consumer, to access the service over there by, or maybe a marketplace of apps and services, and then pay using the same app. I think this is where the market will move. This is my view on this.
Thank you. And I mean, I'm not sure how much of your Blue Marble portfolio is sort of focused on the mobile money market and opportunity in fintech more broadly.
No, it's not on the mobile money, but I could think beyond what Nilesh was saying in terms of the wallet, right? So today the wallet is pretty much traditional. Maybe in the 5G, you could do face recognition and you could do real-time payments using that, or it could be extended to business with blockchain-based security behind it. Not sure. There would be a lot of possibilities, and I think 5G will open up all those possibilities when we are there.
Okay, great, thank you. So I've just opened up the Q&A box. We have so many, I'm struggling to choose them. So I'm just going to pick some at random. Maybe quite a simple one. Why is 5G adoption taking more time than expected? Maybe I'm going to throw that back to Nilesh. I guess it's a function of spectrum becoming available and the fact that you want to build out LTE first, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So number one, I think you see the handset ecosystem.
Yeah. Oh, yes, handsets, of course. Yes, absolutely.
A couple of years ago, 5G device used to cost upward of $1,000. Yeah. Now it has come down, but it's still not affordable. For our markets, in many markets, you will not believe we give loans for buying smartphones.
Yeah.
To our customers. We tie up with companies who give loans to buy smartphones. So we are working on upgrading as much as possible, but we are talking about $50, $60, $80, $100, right? unless you get 5G phones in that range, you don't have somebody to consume, even if you put the network.
And that was the same with LTE, wasn't it? Just we had to wait. And out of interest, what's the average selling price of an LTE device in your markets, Nilesh?
So LTE devices now almost have crossed double digits, but long way to go, because our total smartphone penetration would be 1/3. So only 1 out of 3 smartphones are 1 out of 3 phones is actually a smartphone.
And 3G devices are much cheaper.
3G devices are cheaper, but they are no longer coming. The good thing is that everybody has moved to 4G.
Okay, so what you're saying is the choice now is either a basic GSM phone or a 4G device.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Second thing is also the cost of not only implementing but operating a 5G network.
Yeah.
Your power goes up, your cost of maintenance goes up. So the entire business case has to add up, for you to go big. For 4G, it was making a lot of sense for us. We went 100% 4G across every single site in most of the countries.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, does it make sense for 5G? We are not able to see that yet. So maybe we'll start from some of the capital cities, large cities, and once the adoption catches up, then we will grow. So that's the second part, and that's where I think we'll have to work with the entire partner ecosystem to see how do we, build the, economy of scale there.
Thank you, Nilesh. I've got a question here for Tanvir. And Tanvir, you started talking about orchestration, the importance of orchestration. And there's a question here from Andreas, which is, who will be the orchestrator of these new collaborative of all partners efforts? So which companies could be doing the orchestration?
I think it would be certainly looking from a platform play. Of course, there would be a play of services orchestration also, but from platform perspective, it's going to be new generation BSS systems, right? So companies who are operating in that domain, including us, will play huge role in orchestration of services. It's not only orchestration, I would say, even taking it to automation. Today, BSS system stops at orchestration, provisioning. That's it. But in 5G world, when there would be a lot of B2B2X use cases, you will require a very strong AI ops, right? So once you provision it, you monitor it, figure out any anomaly, correct it, auto correct it. So I think we'll have to. This BSS will eventually evolve into that in the 5G context.
Thank you. And we just have one question for Anand. Will 5G be a game changer for BSS providers? So, I mean, maybe if I can broaden that question to say, is it your observation that when we think about 5G, it's giving rise to a huge amount of interest in terms of BSS transformation and new capabilities? Maybe you can just briefly tell us what you see as being one of those main capabilities that people are looking at for a 5G BSS system.
Yes, Mark, I would say that there's a lot of interest and there is a lot of preparedness that people are putting into to take their BSS to the next level. I already spoke about some of the additional capabilities that BSS needs to have. But to Tanvir's point, the orchestration, when you talk about launching a service, let's say it's a premium communication service or it's a game that's been offered to at a little higher price. All these will involve a lot of things being orchestrated together. It could be orchestrating your slices, it could be orchestrating and bundling the products together, then making sure that your subscribers can be activated, deactivated, onboarded just by using their mobile app. So a lot of things will go behind that, right? And BSS will also need to have to cater to all these capabilities. Great.
So I'm aware that we are out of time. I never like to keep people late. I know you have meetings on the hour to join. So I'd just like to thank Nilesh. Thank you so much for sharing the Airtel Africa story with us. We'd love to have you back. It's a great story, so thank you for that. Anand, good luck with Blue Marble. I know you've been a lot of it into Blue Marble, so good luck with that. And Tanvir, thank you so much for talking to you. Conveer does a lot of new stuff in this space, so best of luck with all of your endeavors. And thanks to all of you audience for the questions, the poll answers. So hope you all enjoyed it. We'll be sending you a recording of the session within the next couple of days. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.